Wednesday show. Wednesday show. Wednesday show. Wednesday show. Where we all are in the know. Uh, let's see. Do we want? Not yet. There we go. Excellent. Okay. Hello, everybody. I was doing some side work. I don't know, but you'll see in a minute what we were doing. Hello. Oh, there we go. We got some people popping on. Frank fam. Hola. Every time I hear the hola, I always think about the Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, where they go through and they do the safety spiel while you're waiting in line. And they always have it so it's Christopher Robin, but it's not Christopher Robin. Goes, hola. And the way he says it is just such a weird but amazing hola. Like it's just I don't know. Every time I hear hola though, or read hola, I read it in that voice, which is funny because I know a lot of people who speak Spanish and none of them ever say hola that way. They say hola. But how's everyone doing? Are you guys doing well? Hopefully everyone's doing well out there. Today we're going to be doing a recap of this past weekend's Wine and Dine half marathon weekend. We're going to be going through talking about all three races, showing off the medals, talking about some of the merchandise and all that other fun stuff. So if you guys want to join us, click the link right there. I got to charge my watch. We'll just start charging it during the show here. So make sure you join us as we go through here, and we will answer any and all Run Disney questions. As you know, I kind of like Run Disney just a little bit, just a little obsessiveness bit of it. All right, so let's get this party started. We're going to start the 742nd episode. We are literally 8 weeks away. Let's figure this out right now, actually, real quick, because I'm curious. Okay, so we're at 42, 43, 44, 45, 46. I'll go to next month. 47, 48, 49. So our 750th episode, our 3/4 of the way to 1,000 episode will be the first episode of 2024. That's pretty awesome. And it'll also be the night before the full marathon 5K. That doesn't make any sense, but the marathon weekend 5K. So we'll see you there. Good night, mate. All right, let's get this party started. We're going to start the 742nd episode of the Wednesday show in 5, 4, 3, 2. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 742nd episode. That was a weird way to say 742nd episode of the Wednesday show. Today is November 8th, 2023, and I'm your host, as always, Brent Dodge. Hello. Today we're going to be coming to you live from my condo, but we're going to be doing a recap of this past weekend's Run Disney Wine and Dine half marathon weekend 2023. We're going to be going through answering your questions. We're also going to be doing a recap of the courses, the characters we saw. We saw 65 characters from start to finish throughout the weekend, and so much more. So if you guys want to join us and talk all about this fun stuff, make sure you join us and start asking your questions in the chat room too. You know, I will go through and answer any and all questions as we go through here tonight. But of course, before we get to that, let's talk about our news for the week. First off, I made a promise to you guys, and I failed miserably at this promise because I completely forgot about my days of the week. I usually do this every single time we're on a Run Disney weekend. I promised you guys that we're going to do a broadcast this past Saturday, and I completely forgot to do the broadcast. I realized literally while I was driving home tonight, I was like, where did I do the broadcast from on Saturday? Because usually I do the whole, make sure you join us every single Saturday for our Saturday in the park. Still doesn't work. And every single Saturday, we do a live broadcast from someplace throughout the Walt Disney World Resort. And that's when I usually say, oh, and last week we broadcast from, and then I was like, wait a minute, we didn't. So I apologize. I forgot that it was Saturday. My days are so messed up. Yesterday, I was actually thinking it was Wednesday all day. And I was like, oh, I got to go home and do the Wednesday show. And then I didn't because it was not actually Wednesday. It was Tuesday. So I apologize. But this week on Saturday, we will be coming to you at someplace from the Walt Disney World Resort. I believe I have Hollywood Studios on Saturday for my thing. I'm not positive, but I'm pretty sure it's Hollywood Studios. It's either Hollywood Studios or Animal Kingdom. One of them's Friday, one of them's Saturday. I just can't remember which way it goes. But make sure you join us every single Saturday at 1 o'clock Eastern Time, right over on my YouTube channel live from Disney. And of course, if you guys missed it a few weeks ago when I was up in Wisconsin and we did our Wednesday show, we did talk a little bit about this, and we talked a little bit about it last week as well. But unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, it's great for them, but our friends over at It's All About the Mouse Travel decided that they're going to retire. So tonight's episode is sponsored by Patreon Pals. If you want to be a Patreon Pal, make sure you join up. Send me a message. I will give you all the links and information on how to become a Patreon Pal. Every single Patreon does help support this channel. If you're a Patreon Pal, thank you so much for all of your support. You know I appreciate you, but I hope you really, truly know that I appreciate you. So, Patreon Pals! I don't know. We're going to work on a song there. I came up with a really, really, really bad jingle 2 weeks ago, and I just can't think what it was. So, tonight we're going to be, as I said, we're going to be talking about the Wine and Dine, I was going to say Expo, but the Wine and Dine Half Marathon Weekend, which was this past weekend. Now, before we get started here, if you are new to this channel and this is your first time ever sitting here and talking about the Wine and Dine Half Marathon or any Run Disney weekend with me, I had a few people who I talked to this past week, and they were curious how much I knew about Run Disney. And then I started to tell them about all of my past experience of Run Disney, and then they were kind of blown away. So just to kind of have a quick recap, I did my first marathon back in 2007, 8, 7? I think it was 2007. 2008. It was 2008. Maybe not. 2007 or 2008, I did the full marathon at Walt Disney World. It was my first marathon ever. It was also my first Run Disney race ever. Shortly after that, I did the Expedition Everest Challenge, Expedition Everest Challenge, Expedition Everest Challenge, Expedition Everest Challenge. And then the fifth year, when I was going to get a perfect for the Expedition Everest Challenge, one of my friends, ironically one of the ones who ran with me this weekend, got married on the day of the fifth one and asked me to be the ring bearer at her wedding. And I said yes. So I missed the fifth one, and I also missed all my perfection that I could have had for my very first ever perfect race. Now, let's talk a little bit about perfect races real quick here too, because this is one of those things that we were asked quite a bit about this week, because on our bib, this was our bib. Now, if you have been perfect for all the races, your bib actually was different. So this one, as you can see at the top, it's yellow. Down here, it's purple. For everyone else who's not a perfect runner for this, the top of it was orange and the bottom of it was purple. Now, it also right here says perfect challenge. So what this actually means, because it does get confusing for people who aren't really familiar with the whole Run Disney work life. So a perfect challenge means that I have done every single one of the challenges, the 2-course challenge, since the very first year that it was created. So it was created back in 2016. And since 2016, I have done the 2-course challenge every single year. Now, you cannot hit a perfect status until you've been in it for 5 years in a row. So after you go 5 years in a row, then you hit the perfect status. And then what happens is the week before regular registration happens, they actually send you a link just specifically for the 2-course challenge or whatever you're perfect on. So you are guaranteed to keep that perfect status. So we were trying to figure it out. We actually met a few people who also had the yellow bibs during the races when we were in lines for characters. And we're all kind of sitting there talking, and I want to know exactly how many people are left as perfect. My guess is right around 1,000. Keeping in mind there's about 15 to 16,000 people who started the half marathon. So out of those 16,000 people, about 1,000 people are perfect for the challenge, is my guess. I could be wrong. It could be more. It could be less. I have no idea. But so yes, I am very, 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 very familiar with this weekend. I've been doing not just the 2-course challenge, but before that, they actually had the Wine and Dine Half Marathon weekend began back in 2011. I did not run into 2011. I did not run into 2012. I did not run into 2013. I did not run into 2014, but I started running it. I did ride 14. Yeah, I ran it in 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. So I've ran it every single year since 2014. So I know this weekend extremely well. I've ran in the craziest of weathers during it, but the more I think about it, it might be my favorite race weekend. But every single time we come back and we start doing a recap of these weekends, I always say this might be my favorite weekend. The only one that I know for a fact is not my favorite, just because I know it's my least favorite, is the Princess Half Marathon weekend. I still really enjoy it. I just don't enjoy it as much as the other ones. Okay, let's start going to some questions in the chat room. Then we'll go through the Expo stuff. Then we will go through the 5K, 10K, and half, and go through the medals as well as we go through there. When are the characters out at the Expo, and where are they typically located? So there are typically 2, sometimes 3 different sets of characters found at the Expo. The location you can find them is, they're there pretty much the entire time that the Expo's open, but they are located over in the Disney merchandise area. So if you ever go to the Expo, this is actually a great way to explain this, because a lot of people probably don't understand how this Expo works. Now, the Expo is over at ESPN Wide World of Sports, and it is situated in a few different buildings. So the first one is the cheerleading complex, which is the newest complex there. That is where all the Disney merchandise is located. If you're going the very first day, you do have to join a virtual queue to get inside, because otherwise people would be waiting for literally hours, because in the past, before they had the virtual queue, people were waiting literally for hours. So that's the location where you can get all the merchandise. That's also the location where you can meet the characters. Up at the top of the hill on the left-hand side in the HP building. No, it's not HP though. It's something else, and I'm drawing a blank on what it is. So the sponsorship's not working. But that is where you can pick up your bibs. So you go in there, and that's where we got our 5K bib. The 5K was themed around Alice in Wonderland. And then if you're doing the 10K and the half marathon separately, you can get your 10K bib there, your half marathon bib there. Or if you're doing the challenge, which is what I did, then you get this. So the 2-course challenge for this weekend is if you do the 10K and the half marathon together as a package deal. You can also sign up individually just for the 10K or individually just for the half marathon as well, which some people do, some people don't. It all kind of comes down to it. But then there's another building, and that other building is where the non-Disney merchandise is, / your Run Disney shirts. So, for instance, you get a shirt for every single race that you do. So if you're doing the challenge and the 5K like I did, then you get a 5K shirt, a 10K shirt, and a half marathon shirt, which is the one I'm wearing, and then also a 2-course challenge shirt. So you get 4 different shirts for doing 3 races plus the challenge. So you get 4 shirts altogether. I would show the other shirts, but they smell. I wore them the last few days, and they're in the laundry. So that's why we just have this one out today. So when you are at the Expo, to continue going through and answer this question, the characters are at the Expo pretty much from start to finish. They usually stop meeting guests about half an hour before the Expo ends, or that's where they actually stop having it. So they're doing the meeting and greets. But let's go through here. I will show you the characters that they had at the Expo. There were 3 different spots during this one where you could actually go through and see the characters. Now, so the 5K I said was Alice in Wonderland themed. The 10K was Beauty and the Beast themed, and the half marathon was Encanto themed. So at the Expo, they had 3 different meet and greet spots. The 5K had, well, let's show it. Instead of saying it, let's show you guys where it is. So during the one spot, they had Tweedledee and Tweedledum there. And then they also had the Beast there for the 10K theme of Beauty and the Beast. And then at the half marathon location, which would have been Encanto, they did not have any characters from Encanto. I was really bummed. Some people were talking, they were spreading rumors about how Louisa was there. And I was like, oh man, I can't believe I missed Louisa. And then we talked to a cast member. They said, no, unfortunately, there's no Encanto characters that are doing mini race there. They just have it so it is the backdrop of Encanto, or like the casita, the house, was there as well. So unfortunately, we did not meet them. But at the Expo, because every single time people ask, and I haven't seen anyone ask yet, but just in case you guys ask, what did you buy at the Expo? I bought this hat, the Wine and Dine Half Marathon hat. If you ever watch my Instagram stories during these weekends, then you know that it makes me so mad when people wear the I Did It stuff beforehand. And this is an I Did It hat. I didn't realize that until after I bought it. So I was about to put it on, and I realized that, and I said, "Oh, I can't wear that until Sunday." So after the race was done, then I was able to wear my hat. And in addition to that, I've been collecting the Tervises for the weekends. I don't know why, but I do use them constantly. I'm always drinking water. So this is the Tervis for this weekend. Like I said, Alice in Wonderland was the 5K, Beauty and the Beast was the 10K, Encanto was the half, and then Figment was the 2-course challenge theme. So we have Figment there at the bottom. And then at the back, we have some flower patterns that represent all 3 different films with Alice in Wonderland, Beauty and the Beast, and Encanto. So those are the 2 things of merch. I also bought a jacket, and that also is in the wash right now. Run Disney has it, so every single season they come out with a new jacket. I don't know why I quoted it. It's a new jacket. And I didn't buy the last 2 or 3 years because I didn't really like the design. I liked the design this year, so I ended up buying it. So, yeah, not bad. Okay, so let's go through. We're going to talk about the 5K, the 10K, the half, and then the party as well, because there is a party with this one as well. Okay, so the 5K course starts over. I'm pulling my pictures right now. The 5K course starts over in the Epcot parking lot. And as you go through the Epcot parking lot, do I have a map of Epcot anywhere near? Animal Kingdom, Magic Kingdom. I don't think I do. No, not there. I really need to always have a map of each park near me because this happens way too frequently. So, you know what? I got an idea. We're going to pull it up on the My Disney Experience. Although the My Disney Experience was crashing on me quite a bit today. So hopefully it does not crash at all right now. Okay, so you start off. Come on. All right, here we go. So we're going to start off inside of the Epcot parking lot. Right here. So you start right here, you run up here, and then you run on the outside of the parking lot until eventually you get to this, what appears to be a river, but in reality, this is just a backstage area that they want to disguise as a river. Eventually, you go through and you enter backstage over here. You go underneath Test Track, and then you eventually go through the door that would be located. Let me zoom in a little bit. Right there by the Mexico Pavilion. In between Mexico and Norway, you can see the little path coming out. And we would run all the way around World Showcase. Yay. Oh, other way. All around World Showcase. Keep loading, keep loading. Until eventually, usually you would go out through International Gateway, but this year they actually switched it up. So this year we continued going through here, and then you would go past Canada. And then they had it so we went on the back side of these buildings, which we've never done before. I was actually very excited about that. And we ran around this way, and then we ran up through here and through this archway. And then we went up by Guardians of the Galaxy, and we went backstage again until eventually we made our way backstage into the parking lot here where we would finish the race. Yay! So that was 3.1 miles. Let's go through. We're going to pull up our pictures here from the 5K race. Now, I had a few people who sent me private messages asking about who the person was that was also running with us. That was my friend Catherine. Catherine, I did my college program with. She has a goal right now to do 39 races in her 39th year alive. So she joined us on our challenge this week. So here we go. So she was only there for the 5K and half. She unfortunately could not get into the 10K. So our first character there was the White Rabbit. He was backstage of Epcot. Eventually, we made our way up to the American Adventure. They had Duffy was there. When we made our way over to the UK Pavilion, we had the Queen of Hearts, along with the 3 of Clubs and the 3 of Diamonds. It's pretty exciting. Never met those guys before. I hadn't. And then as we were exiting out of World Showcase, we had Stitch there from Lilo and Stitch. And then we also had backstage of Epcot before the finish line. Angel and Reuben, two of the experiments from the Lilo and Stitch television series. So overall, great race. Had a lot of fun with it. We met all those characters, and then at the end of it, we got our first medal of the weekend, which is the Alice in Wonderland medal. It does swivel around. So we got Alice and the Cheshire Cat on one side, and Mad Hatter and Cheshire Cat on the other side as well. So overall, pretty cool. We got the White Rabbit is found on the ribbon there as well. And then in the parking lot during these races, typically what they do is they'll have it so there's multiple characters that you can meet every single day. So every single day it's a different character before each race or after each race. So you can meet these characters before or after the races. And typically what I like to do is I like to have it so I meet every single character throughout the entire weekend. That's my main goal every single weekend. Actually, we were talking the other day, and Frank said, I need to get my medals. I said, I care about the characters, not the medals. And it's true. I would not give up the medals for the characters, but I would never say that to him. Hopefully Frank's not watching, because I made a very big deal about how we need to meet all the characters. So in the parking lot, though, typically for the 5K, 10K, and half, they do switch up the characters. This time around, they did not. So the first day after the 5K, I said, oh, we're going to have to meet these characters because tomorrow they're going to be different characters. And it actually helped out because the 10K and half had the same characters, which allowed us to have it so after the races, we could just leave and get some rest. So in the parking lot, we were able to meet Bruno and Mirabelle from Encanto. And then in addition to them, we were also able to meet Alice along with the Mad Hatter from Alice in Wonderland. And then we were also able to meet Lumiere and Belle from Beauty and the Beast. So this allowed us to have it so during the 10K and half, we were able to just kind of go and enjoy our time, which was great. As soon as we left, we were able to just kind of, skedaddle and get out of there. Okay, so that was the 5K. Now for the 10K, let's go through the course again here. So again, we start off at the Epcot parking lot. We're going to zoom out a little bit more this time. You start off in this spot of the parking lot right here. So this time we ran along this path right here, the gray path, and now it's the yellow path. And we ran across this area and we looped around to the bottom of World Drive. And yes, that is a giant hidden Mickey there. It is actually solar panels, but that's not part of the weekend that we're talking about right now. So we continued running down this way until eventually we would loop around here and then start going this way until eventually we would enter right about here. There's a backstage entrance, and it would take you into Disney's Hollywood Studios. Now, very, very unexciting part of the course here, but we had it so you enter right here, you go down Sunset Boulevard, and you don't even go all the way down Sunset Boulevard. You turn right here, and you go backstage until eventually you make your way to the outside of Disney's Hollywood Studios. This is a very common thing for the 10K course. A lot of people are complaining about it, and I was like, this is just how it is, because otherwise your mileage doesn't really match up. So eventually what would happen is you get out to the Epcot parking lot, and you go underneath the Skyliner, and then you would take this pathway, which is so small. It's one of my least favorite parts of any Run Disney thing, because it's such a small path, and you'll get stuck behind these people who are not running, and you are running, and you're like, just go a little bit faster, people. So you would eventually focus. You would eventually go through and get up to this point up here. You'd go along the boardwalk, and once you got up to the boardwalk, you would eventually, this is so tough because it's like opposite. You enter through backstage of Epcot over by the UK pavilion, and then you would kind of just run wherever you wanted to go. Oh, end of the third. Detroit's beating Milwaukee. That's the alert that just popped up. And then eventually you would go through this way and you would go through the exact same exit that we went through yesterday. So the 10K course, okay, so we were talking about this after the race. When it comes to my favorite mileage for different races, I think the 10K might be my favorite because it's a distance that I can run the entire time, but at the same time, I feel comfortable. Like I don't feel like I'm dying when I'm going through and getting there. But overall, I really enjoy a 10K race. I don't think a lot of people do, but I really enjoy it. So during the 10K race, there were so many characters out that I think Frank was going to kill me, because if you were here for our marathon recap weekend, during the 10K, we met every single character, or almost every character, but we almost got swept. So being swept means that there is a 16-minute mile pace that you have to stay at throughout the run. Otherwise, what they do is they actually put you on a bus and they bring you to the finish line. And it's never happened to us, but it's one of those things that just in the back of your mind, you kind of get fearful of. Even though I know that we, in between characters, we're typically running about a 9 to 10-minute mile pace. But when you are in these character lines, some of them are a long, long wait. And the 10K was a long, long wait for a lot of them. So we kind of took advantage of the fact that Frank is a Club RunDisney member, which means that even though him and I run at the same pace, if you are Club RunDisney, you automatically get bumped up one further corral up than what you typically should be at. So, for instance, if you look at the top, thing here, I was in C, Frank was in B. So at the starting line, Frank got a start before I did. But it helped because when we started doing these characters, Frank could get in the first line before I would get there. And the first line, he's sending me messages and he's calling me. He's like, this first line is ridiculous. It's like 200 people back. But it was Gaston. And I said, no, we got to meet Gaston. We got to meet all the characters. It's just the way that we do these races. So Gaston was our first one. Our next characters were Donald and Daisy in their chef outfits there. And then after that, we had Pinocchio and Jiminy Cricket. Ooh, focus. There they are. Pinocchio and Jiminy Cricket. After that, we had Chip and Dale. And then we had Robin Hood and Little John from Robin Hood. If anyone out there did you guys watch the Modern Family episode when they went to Disneyland? Because now anytime I see Robin Hood, or I'm sorry, not Robin Hood, anytime I see Little John, I just think about Dylan in the costume. It just makes me fun. Also, fun fact, today is the 50th anniversary of Robin Hood. So if you're looking for something to watch tonight, I highly recommend Brent Dodge's YouTube channel. But after that, Robin Hood. Over at the exit of studios, we met Panchito and Jose Carioca. After entering into Epcot, we met Snow White and Dopey. Backstage of Epcot, we met Wilbur. He's from Meet the Robinsons. I had some people who were asking me about who that was. He was from Meet the Robinsons. Over on the boardwalk, we met Mickey and Minnie in their chef outfits. Minnie's not looking at the camera. I just realized that. How dare you, Minnie? Right before the finish line, we met Phineas and Ferb. Phineas and Ferb were swapping out with Agent P. Doobie-doo-wop. So unfortunately, we did not see Agent P. It would be really cool if we saw Agent P, though. So those are all our characters for the 10K course. Let's start going through some more questions. I've been ignoring the questions. I'm guessing your extent of your whining and dining was whining about once your dining was over. No. I don't whine. Why do you think they changed the 5K course, and do you think they will keep it that way? So the 5K course used to have, so the 5K course that they've had over the last few years has been different from what it used to be. I used to love the 5K course. So the 5K course used to have it so eventually you would go underneath the Spaceship Earth, like literally like right under Spaceship Earth. And then you would exit by the restrooms that are over by Spaceship Earth that would take you just backstage slightly into the parking lot. And it was my favorite way to end the race. I still think it's the best way to end the race because you were in the park up until about maybe 2.25 miles towards the finish line. That's where it was at. So it was just a really cool way to have it so like you're under Spaceship Earth. Now it's like the last like 0.4, maybe 0.5 miles is backstage, and I don't like that as much. Like I like to have it so I'm soaking in the park as much as possible. So yeah, I think that the reason that they changed it this time was mainly due to the fact that it was an Alice in Wonderland themed race, and usually the only country that you skip during the 5K is the UK pavilion. So I think they said, okay, instead of having it so we have that extra mileage going around the Skyliner and then going backstage, maybe we can have it so we cut that part and then add that extra mileage in two different places. Where they chose those two different places was over by the two tower shops that are at the entrance of World Showcase, and also by going around Guardians of the Galaxy. I think that's why they did it, was mainly due to the fact that they wanted to have it so UK was represented in a UK-based story race. So I think that that's why they did that. But I could be wrong, but that was, while we were even talking about the race the day before, I said, it's kind of weird because the 5K, like we always go through, or we always go around UK, but it'd be kind of weird to do that with an Alice in Wonderland themed race. And I think, people that I was talking to about it, I don't think they understood. And I was like, no, logically, this doesn't make sense. And it doesn't. And I think someone else in Disney was like, logically, this doesn't make sense, Brent Dodge. I'm like, that's right. You're reading my mind, man. All right. Sorry, couldn't think of any challenging questions. No problem. It's like Sophie's Choice. Very cool to meet the cards along with, I really like that. He's watching. I think that's about Frank. I think they should consider hanging out Velcro Christmas decorations with the runners, then placed in certain locations around the. That would be a killer for Disney. They would absolutely hate that. So this is going to be our 10K medal then. So it was Beauty and the Beast themed. On one side we've got Lumiere and Cogsworth. On the other side we have Mrs. Potts and Chip. Again, very, 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 very cool medal. Absolutely love it. All right. That brings us to our half marathon. Now, the half marathon course was a brand new half marathon course, but also if you've done Wine and Dine in the past, I feel like this course has changed so many times since I started. I've like I said earlier, I've ran this every single year for the last 11 years now. And so every year I do feel like the course has changed drastically compared to what it was the year before. So let's talk a little bit about what it was this year. Okay, so again, we started in the Epcot parking lot, which is already a brand new change. Usually we don't start there for a half marathon, but we started there for the half marathon. We made our way down and around this loop right here until eventually we would go down this road and up this ramp, up this ramp here, and then we would go on the backstage way into Epcot. Again, we would loop all the way around World Showcase, starting over in the Mexico Pavilion, and eventually exiting over by the UK Pavilion. You would eventually make your way backstage here until you get to the Skyliner, and once you get to the Skyliner, we would once again go around the boardwalk, and we would go along that really, really, really skinny path there, all the way until we got to Disney's Hollywood Studios. This is where the course does change a little bit from what it was the day before. Not a little bit, a lot of it. So eventually we would make our way here. Wait a minute. I've got a pen here. Let me use the pen. So then it's going to be easier, I think, for me to point with the pen. So you would enter backstage. Don't lose it. You would enter backstage, and then you would go down Hollywood Boulevard until this is not working. You would go down Hollywood Boulevard. You would go around Echo Lake, and then you would eventually make your way past Star Tours into Galaxy's Edge, up around through Toy Story Land, and then back up through this Hollywood Studios Arch. You go down a little bit of Hollywood Boulevard until you went through Sunset Boulevard. You would go past Tower of Terror and then go up the path here that would take you past Fantasmic. We would eventually go backstage there until we got into this yellow road, and we would start going down the yellow road this way. All right, let's zoom out a little bit so things become a little bit more crystal clear. So this whole part that's about to happen was a brand new part of the course for me. I can't think of any Run Disney race that's ever gone down the road in this direction. The full marathon does go the opposite way, but we would continue going past Coronado Springs here. We would go past Blizzard Beach, and then no, wrong way. Then we would come up here and we'd go up the ramp here until eventually we would get to World Drive. We would take World Drive all the way up until we went around this archway here. And then you would loop around on this road here, and you would come into the parking lot. And then we would enter into Epcot, or we'd come through the backstage area, go around. Let's zoom in a little bit. We'd go around all this stuff, go around the seas, go around the land pavilion. Eventually, there's like a building right here that you'd go around to, which is actually Soarin' backstage. And then we would go through the backstage entrance into the Figment area. Then we would loop around here, go up this way, over this way, and then up. And eventually, we would have the exact same ending that we would have for all the previous races this weekend. So let's go through. We decided that, of course, we wanted to meet all the characters that we had not met yet during the course. So let's go through every single character, because we did successfully meet every single character during the entire weekend. At least the characters that were out. We found out later on that there was a Pluto that was with Chip and Dale, but when we went by, it was just Chip and Dale. So we did not meet Pluto at all, but that's the only one but we didn't see him, so we didn't know. Okay, so our first characters here were Flora, Fauna, Merryweather, along with Princess Aurora and Prince Philip. Then we had Aladdin and Abu, Captain Hook and Smee. The cast member was kind of rude. She said, no one will ever take your picture for you. You have to take selfies at all the character spots. We're like, that's not true. So they had Goofy, Donald, and Daisy there. Then we had Timon and Rafiki, Thumper and Miss Bunny, penguins from Mary Poppins. Oh, wait, that's what we already saw. Let's go back. Okay, then penguins from Mary Poppins. We ran around, and then we saw Ray and Chewie were up on the thing. Oh, then I know who we saw. I just have to find the picture of them. Where are they at? There they are. Then we saw Woody and Bo Peep. After Woody and Bo Peep, we saw Winnie the Pooh. After Winnie the Pooh, we saw the Country Bears. After the Country Bears, we saw Horace Horsecollar and Clarabelle Cow. And then we were on a long stretch of nothing, like absolutely nothing for the longest time. Eventually, we would come across Oogie Boogie from Nightmare Before Christmas. We'd also meet Jack Skellington from The Nightmare Before Christmas. We would also meet Nick Wilde and Judy Hopps. These two were before those other two, actually, now that I think about it. And then we would eventually make our way back on the way back to Epcot, we also saw Russell and Doug. It is kind of crazy how many characters we actually go through and meet during these things. I think 65 was how many characters we met this time around. If I remember, I counted it the other day. I think it was 65 was the count. Eventually, we would make our way back into Epcot. Once we got into Epcot, they had it so you could take selfies with Figment. If you look, can you see the rope? No, you can't see the rope. There was a rope. You can see it in my YouTube video that I posted. But there was a rope that had it so people could just go up to the rope and get selfies with Figment. So unfortunately, we were not able to go do a meet and greet with Figment. But I feel like if there was a meet and greet, we had to wait in line for this. I feel like we would have waited for a much longer time. We met 4 of the ghosts from the Haunted Mansion. This was a ridiculously long line, but you couldn't see the characters. for a long time because they were like, it was all around a corner. And I was thinking, oh, if they're hitchhiking ghosts, that'd be awesome. Because usually if it's like characters like that, because it's not like they don't have names. Usually I'm like, okay, those aren't characters. We don't have to meet them. And then we waited and waited and waited. And finally we saw them. I was like, oh, this is who we're waiting for. I thought it was going to be like the hitchhiking ghost. Then we saw Miguel from Coco. And then two of the ones that I freaked out about, Star-Lord and Gamora from Guardians of the Galaxy. They are never out. Like, absolutely unbelievable seeing those characters. And I think that is all the characters. Yeah, that's all the characters. So in order to, or not in order to complete it, in order to complete this, you must obtain these medals. For finishing the half marathon, we did get our half marathon medal. It's got Maribel there. However, a few things about this that I love. One, on the back it says the magic is in you. Oh no, that's a different one. I was going to say there's writing on the back another one, but not the 5K or the 10K. It's the challenge medal. And then if you look at Maribel here, you can move her, and Bruno's behind her. What? Isn't that cool? Okay, so that was the half marathon medal. And then for doing the 5K and 10, or I'm sorry, for doing the 10K and the half, then you get your challenge medal, which is this cool little thing here. And if you look at the back, it says, let your imagination run. But you'll also notice there's this thing here, a little on-off button. What's that? That's never been part of any Run Disney race before. It's also going to be part of the Dopey Challenge medal coming in January. But if you push it, the light lights up. What? And it was really cool because during the after party, we played flashlight tag. It was, I mean, it's not a good flashlight. It's, you can kind of see it. See, it kind of lights up there. I contemplated getting rid of my electricity after this because I figured I don't need these lights in here that I usually use. I can just use this light bulb here. But look, the whole metal is shaped like Figment, and then you got Figment in the middle too. Just a really, really cool medal. Love this medal. I mean, that's one of the coolest medals that Disney's ever done. Okay, let's go through some more questions, then we'll talk a little bit about the after party here. Was the weather much nicer this year? Yes, the weather was perfect. Absolutely perfect. This was probably some of the best running weather that I've ever had for any Run Disney race. And yeah, I absolutely loved it. Every single second, every single morning was amazing weather. Perfect running weather from start to finish. So yes, much nicer. How many repeat characters do they have at each race? So we were talking about it this time because usually you'll have a lot of different repeat characters, especially during like marathon weekend. Marathon weekend last year, we met I think it was 72 characters. But the nice thing about having repeat characters during these weekends is you want to stay ahead of the back of, you don't want to get swept. And that's our main goal. Our main goal is we don't want to have it so we get swept. We don't want, there's people at the back of the pack called the Balloon Ladies. And the Balloon Ladies are not official people by Disney. They have it so the Balloon Ladies walk at a 16-minute mile pace, and they are the very last people to start. And so the 16-minute mile pace starts when the last person crosses the starting line. So in reality, let's say on Saturday during the 10K, for those 6 miles, I would have to do, trying to do the math real quick here, 96 minutes for the whole thing if I was the last person to start. However, I was not the last person. Wait, is that right? Yeah. Wait. 16 times 6. Yeah, 96 minutes. So if I was the last person to start, I would have 96 minutes from when I start to when I finish to not have it so I get pulled to the side and they say, here's a bus for you to go on, and you're going to go to the end. Also, before we continue, because there are people who I've talked to who are, that's like their biggest fear. is getting swept during these races. And my theory is if you get swept, it's not the end of the world, because you are doing more by attempting it than a lot of other people will ever attempt in their life. Like, just giving it a shot of hopefully possibly finishing is an amazing, amazing, amazing thing. To even take one step across that starting line is taking one step further than most people will ever take. So being swept, yes, it's a bummer, but at the same time, it's you're doing so much more than what a lot of other people do. So what was I saying? Oh, so if you have 96 minutes from when you start on the 10K day, I started 42 minutes before the balloon ladies did. So I didn't just have that 96-minute buffer. I actually had another 42 minutes on top of that 96 buffer. So I had 138 minutes to finish my race. So in reality, I had over 2 hours to go through and actually finish that race. So it's one of those things that's really nice for going through and trying to meet as many characters as possible. Because if you are able to submit a qualifying time, like myself, where you can say, oh, like, I deserve to be in this corral because these are my times from previous races, and because these previous races, I can prove that I'm not going to meet the back of the pack the whole time. They say, okay, so if you can prove that you're fast enough to kind of go through. So the advantage of submitting times, because I've talked to a few people who say that it's not fair that they put faster people in front and slower people in the back. They should have it so all the slow people go first and the fast people go last. And I said that's not fair to anyone, because then the slow people who might be walking the entire time are having it so people are like constantly weaving around them. So it's not fair to the people weaving around them, and it's not fair to those people in the front, because all they're doing is having it so all these people are completely destroying their morale by having it so they're just getting past the entire race. So it's one of those things. In order to prove the time, you just have to submit another time from a previous race saying, hey, this is the time that I've done. That's also one of those reasons why Frank and I have done races like Clearwater and the Orlando Half Marathon and the Celebration Half Marathon, because we're trying to have it so we get faster times where we're not getting stopped by characters. And by having it so we can go through and submit a faster time for our full marathon or half marathons, and that way we can start further up so we can meet as many repeat characters as possible. So I'm still trying to, like, this is such an easy question to answer. I'm making it so much more complicated. So how many repeat characters do they have each race? So it really depends on the weekend. This one, we were blown away because there was almost no repeat characters. We saw Chip and Dale 2 times. We saw Donald and Daisy 2 times. We saw Mickey and Minnie 2 times. And I think that might have been it. There was probably one more character that I'm just drawing a blank on. Oh, there was. Oh, who was the other character? Oh, Duffy. We saw Duffy entering into Disney's Hollywood Studios on the half marathon. I said, nope, we already met him during the 5K. We can skip him. So that's one of the nice things about trying to meet all the characters, is when there are repeat characters, it allows you to give a little bit more buffer room, because you're saying, okay, I've already met this character this weekend. I feel okay. I can keep on going. Now it's the next character. And the nice thing also about having the repeat characters is because not everyone's doing all the races like I am. If someone's at the half marathon and they see Duffy, in their mind, they're going, holy cow, there's Duffy. I've never met Duffy before. I got to get in line for Duffy. And I'm like, haha, I saw him 2 days ago at the 5K. But because I'm skipping him, it allows me to pull further ahead from those people and have it so those potential people who might be in the next line, which was Miss Bunny and Thumper, those people could possibly be going into that next line. So now I'm ahead of them in that next line. So anyways, how many repeat characters do they have in each race? Usually it's more than what it was this time. For the marathon weekend, there's a lot of duplicate characters. But like I said, we skip the repeat ones as long as we meet them once per weekend. And it's funny because I don't think my friends share the same mentality as me when it comes to the characters as often. So sometimes during like marathon weekend, we'll be like, oh, we met them during the Wine and Dine half marathon. I'm like, well, is it the same weekend? I don't think so. We're on a brand new challenge here. So for me, every weekend, brand new characters, have to meet them. I've never met them before in my mind, even though I've probably met them all hundreds of times before. Is there after party for every runner? Do they have it on the marathon weekend as well? No. So let's talk a little bit about the after party. So this is going to be the after party map. The Wine and Dine Half Marathon post race party, November 5th from 10 o'clock to 1 a.m. That's 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. So the reason that the Wine and Dine has a after party, and it's actually the only race weekend that has an after party, is due to the fact that the way that the Wine and Dine Half Marathon used to be situated. So it usually, or not usually, it initially was a nighttime race. So what they did initially was you started at like, I want to say it was like 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock at night. I think 9 o'clock at night. No, maybe 10. It might have been 10. It was pretty late. So you would start the race at 10 o'clock at night at ESPN Wide World of Sports. You would run through, or you would run down the road into Animal Kingdom. You would go through Animal Kingdom, go through Hollywood Studios. It would also be the first time of the year that they would have the Osborne Family Spectacle of Dancing Lights on. It was like for the runners. Like they were the first people who were able to see it every single year. You would run through it, and then you would make your way down into Epcot. And then when you got to the finish line, the after party was going on. So you had a party at Epcot that went for about, I think at that point, it went to like 3 o'clock in the morning. So it was a big party for the people who were finishing the half marathon. So you would finish and you'd be at the party and you'd be having a great time. And what they do is they give you, they used to, now they don't do this anymore, but they used to have it so when you finished the race during those after party days, they gave you either a little bottle or a little, it was like a little bottle of wine or a little can of beer. They were both like this big. And when you finish, you got to choose if you wanted the beer or the wine, and then they would give it to you. And then they would also give you a $15 gift card to eat food at the Food and Wine Festival. And they still do that to this day. That you still get the $15 thing. So when you are doing these races for the Wine and Dine Half Marathon, they still have that party, even though it's now a morning race. They have kept that tradition alive of having it so they still have that after party, even though it's literally you finish at like 8 o'clock in the morning and it's literally 12 hours later and you're going to the party. Is the after party for every runner? It's for anyone who did the half marathon or anyone who did the challenge. And then if you do the 10K or the 5K, you can also buy a ticket to it, but it does cost money. So if you want to go to it, the cheapest way is probably actually buying the half marathon and then running as far as you can. And then if you get swept, you still get your medal. You don't get the challenge medal, but you still get your half marathon medal. And then you also still get to go to an after party. So not bad at all. Let's go to the next one here. How do they know what corral to put you in when you're doing it for the very first time? You're the back. That's so your very first time you like, and there's been times where I have forgotten to submit my time and I've started in the very back. Actually, we were just talking about this weekend because my friend Catherine was running with us and her first half marathon was the Princess Half Marathon. Probably 6 years ago. I don't even know how many years ago. It was a while ago, but it was her and her sister ran the challenge with me and my friend Alex. And then her husband, Chris, ran just the half marathon. And I forgot to submit a time. Chris had never ran a race before. And Catherine, her sister, had submitted a time. And so, because you can submit it from a 10K, half, or a full. And they had done a 10K, but they had never done a half. So I forgot to submit a time. Chris didn't submit a time. So him and I started in the very back of the pack, which was also kind of fun to do because we spent the entire race like we were determined we're going to catch up to the other two, and we caught up to them in Tomorrowland. So it was a lot of fun. Like that's still a lot of fun. But yeah, if you don't have a time, you just start in the back, and then throughout the years you just make your way to the front. It's just how it works. That's how it's always been, and that's not just Disney races. That's all races. That's pretty much, if you go to any race that has corrals, like the New York City Marathon, Boston Marathon, Chicago Marathon, London Marathon, whatever marathon, any big organized running event, they'll always do the same thing where it's, if you don't have a time to submit, I'm sorry, but you're at the back of the pack. There's smaller races that we've done actually, when we did Clearwater last month, it was a half marathon. We were in Corral C out of like 7 corrals, I want to say. So we didn't submit our time, or no, we did submit a time because we were in C. So, but then we also did the marathon in Orlando last year, I want to say. I think it was last September. And that one, it was a big race, but they didn't have corrals. They just said, start with where you think you're going to be running. So we kind of chose towards the start of the middle of the pack because we said, okay, we're probably about an average speed, but maybe we're a little bit faster than the average speed. So that's where we started, and we chose fairly correctly. But yeah, so that's how they do it. Any other questions before we wrap up here? Oh yeah, so for the after party had 7 attractions that were open. They had Journey of Water, inspired by Moana, Soarin', Journey to Imagination, Remy's Ratatouille Adventure, Frozen Ever After, Test Track, and Guardians of the Galaxy. So one of the nice things about this is if we wanted to, we could have ridden Guardians over and over and over and over and over again. We decided that we're going to try to do all 7 attractions. We missed Test Track, and the only reason we missed Test Track was because we figured there was a chance that we might be able to ride Guardians twice if we got into the line for Guardians at the time that we were getting into the line for Guardians, and we barely missed getting out to Guardians twice. I think we missed by like 4 minutes or 5 minutes when we got off Guardians. But at the same time, we were all pretty exhausted because we had been up since 2 o'clock in the morning, and we got a little bit of nap in the afternoon, and then we were out partying all night long. And yeah, we probably wouldn't have been able to run from the end of the ride to the line itself again. So it probably was worth it. In addition to that, they do have exclusive characters out as well. Most of the exclusive characters were characters that they had already had throughout the weekend. They had Duffy Bear, the 3 Caballeros all together. They didn't have Donald on the race course, but they did have him with Jose and Panchito during the after party. They had Mulan and Mushu, Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs. It was Snow White and Dopey. Pinocchio, Jiminy Cricket, and Geppetto were there, but we didn't meet them. Over for Aladdin, they had the Genie along with Princess Jasmine. Beauty and the Beast, they had Beauty and Beast and Lumiere. No, Gaston and Gaston. Alice in Wonderland had the White Rabbit along with the Queen of Hearts. And then the Lion King had Timon and Rafiki, who we also met on the course as well. While you're going through the entire party, all throughout Epcot, you can hear a DJ playing, DJ CJ. He's one of the staples of Run Disney race weekends. He's pretty awesome. And he takes requests. But so there was a big party going on. They also had it so there was an exclusive drink for people who did the race. And it came with a souvenir glass. And they were really hyping this glass up. And we thought, the way they're hyping it up, I was like, not many people are going to be going through and getting this glass. Every place that had this drink in it, those lines were insane. So good thing we didn't want any of those things in those places. But yeah, we used our $15 gift cards. We got some food. I got a brat. I got some pot stickers. And what else did I get? Oh, I got a steak from the Canada booth as well. So overall, great weekend. Had a ton of fun. I cannot wait for Marathon Weekend. We are less than 2 months away from Marathon Weekend. And I'm really excited because my friend Catherine, who ran the 5K and half marathon with us this weekend, it's going to be her first marathon. It's also her first Dopey Challenge. So I'm extremely excited to take her through that experience as well. I've already promised her that I will stick with her for the 10K half and full. She's running the 5K with her dad. So I said, you guys can go, enjoy the time together. And then 10K half and full, it's Brent Dodge time. And you are going to meet every single character, whether you like it or not. So overall, great weekend. Had a lot of fun. Any last questions out there? Oh, here we go. I got to meet Star-Lord and Gamora after the D23 convention in September. It was so cool. That's very cool. Does anyone remember? Do you guys remember the Villains Night? And I got the thing. It's in my. They had a Villains Night in 2014, August of 2014, at Hollywood Studios, and it was one of the coolest nights ever. but you could meet Star-Lord and Gamora. It was the first time they were ever made an appearance in Walt Disney World. And in addition, I didn't meet them. I spent 99% of my night meeting in line for Constantine, the evil Kermit the Frog from Muppets Most Wanted. I am a big Muppets fan, and I wanted to meet Constantine, and the line was really long, and he would take long breaks. But while we were in line, we realized, or we didn't realize, all of a sudden the cast member were like, let it spill. They weren't supposed to tell us, but the performer for Constantine, like the actual Muppet performer, was the actual person who was in charge of Constantine that night. So it was really cool to actually meet Constantine and actually have it. So it was him, it was his voice, and all the other fun stuff. But yeah, that was the first time that they ever had Star-Lord and Gamora out at Walt Disney World. And I remember kind of kicking myself for it. And then when I found out that it was actually Constantine himself, I was like, oh no, never mind. This is kind of cool. But I love that night. I hope they bring that back at some point too. That was a villains night. We met him. We also met Bowler Hat Guy. And and Shang-Chi from Mulan. Anyone else? I don't know. Oh, but anyways, as always, tonight's episode is sponsored by Patreon Pals. We need a logo. Let's come up with one right now. When life is down. Oh wait. When life is down and you're gonna drown, just look at your sales. You got Patreon Pals. No? Anyone? Let's see. When you're really broke and when you're really broke and your ears are filled with smoke, you go ride the rails with Patreon Pals. Yeah, Patreon Pals. We can have another Patreon Pals one. This is ridiculous. Anyone who's watching for the first time is like, I don't know who this guy is, but I'm never tuning in again. We can also say Pals. What else rhymes with Pals? I gotta get the first part there. I took a snooze while I was on a cruise, but there were some whales with my Patreon Pals. I don't know. We're working with a jingle. We need a jingle. I've been saying the same jingle for years. Because I can't say it's absolutely free. Go book with our Patreon Pals. All their services are absolutely positively 100% free. So we need a new jingle. But I'm kind of liking our. I don't even remember what the first one was, but I feel like that was the best one. We can say. I don't even know. Patreon Pals. What was our first one? I don't even remember. I'm gonna have to go back and watch this video. I never go back and watch my videos. Fun fact. I may have watched one of mine like years ago, where I was like, "Wait a minute, what was I talking about last night?" And then I watched it, and I was like, "Oh, that guy." Ugh. Okay. So if we have, it's something about sales and Patreon Pals. So that first one that we just said. What if we did veils? I don't know. We'll figure it out. I think we will need to vote on this. We'll add that into one of our daily votes. If you're not a Patreon Pal, we do daily votes, and that's how all of the pretty pictures that you guys see on Instagram that I post every day, that's actually voted on my Patreon Pals on which picture gets posted. But as always, thank you for joining us once again tonight as we keep on trying to come up with our Patreon Pal logo. But if you're not a Patreon Pal, make sure you send me a message. I will give you the link on how to become a Patreon Pal. And you can join our group, and you can vote for our pictures too every single day. Hey. As always, thank you everyone for joining us once again. I hope everyone out there enjoyed our show tonight. And hopefully you learn a little bit more about the One and Dine Half Marathon Weekend. Also, raise a hands. How many out there have actually done a Run Disney weekend? We usually start with that, and I never thought about asking it this time. Is anyone out there? Anyone at all? Have you done a Run Disney race? Maybe. I don't know. But thank you everyone for joining us. As always, remember that anything can happen if you let it. Until next time, have a great week, everybody. Bye-bye. Goodbye now. Goodbye. Bye-bye now. Bye-bye now. Goodbye. Are are they gone? Are they gone? Oh, good. My cheeks are just killing me. I just can't stand this going